Brodes Media.
Hey everyone, before we get started, a few things. Make sure you follow me on TikTok at Brodes Media. You will not want to miss the content that I am producing there. Follow me on Twitter at Brodes81. That's my personal account. And the company account at Brodes Media, where we clip a lot of in-game clips of the Phillies and other sports. You will not want to miss that either. And lastly, if you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love you all so much, and enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm impressed with this series victory against the Boston Red Sox in Fenway, especially how Game 3 played out. COVID protocols. The game was at 1 o'clock, and at 11:15, nobody knew who was even going to pitch because Aaron Nola was one of a few that was not available to play, which was very disappointing because I was all in emotionally on a Nick Pivetta versus Aaron Nola matchup for a series win right before the All-Star break. Unfortunately, we were robbed of that moment, but it's okay because they still had enough power, because Ranger Suarez could hold on to a 7-out save, because Brandon Kinsler was able to open the game, I guess, even though Bogarts ended up hitting a solo shot off of him in the second to give Boston a 1-0 lead. Look, I'm going to dive into all three games specifically. I had a busy-ass weekend, so instead of going game by game, I'm just going to package the entire series up here in a conversation. But I'll start with this. The Philadelphia Phillies are now 44-44. While this is a great, nice, emotional time because they beat the San Diego Padres at home, 2-1. It was taking a 2 of 3 type of situation. They took 3 of 4 against the Cubs, and they took 2 of 3 against the Red Sox in Fenway. That's great. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a team that's 500. We're talking about a team that is literally average. You would think, based off of some of the conversation I'm hearing, that this team is way better than what they are. They're 500. I'm not sucked in yet. And what I need to see is this coming out of the gate. After the All-Star break, you now have some days off. You fire things back up with the doubleheader against the Miami Marlins, and this team stinks against teams when it's a doubleheader situation. They're not good. The Phillies are not good in doubleheaders. So you have to start off by playing the Marlins in a doubleheader at Citizens Bank Park, though, which gives me a little bit more confidence. My point is this. You have to keep this same energy after taking a bunch of days off. It's not an easy thing to do, but if you are going to convince me that maybe you can take this thing for a ride and go toe-to-toe with the New York Mets, which they are 3.5 games back of right now, you need to play this style of baseball right from the shoot, right from the end of this All-Star break. Right at the end of this All-Star break. As soon as we start talking about the Marlins, the Yankees, the Braves, which are the teams you are going to be seeing, keep playing this way, keep winning series by series, and then maybe you will convince me that you are stronger than I think. I keep going back to, this is a small sample size. We're talking about 3 against the Padres, 4 against the Cubs, that's 7. 3 against the Red Sox, that's 10 games. 10 games. They've played 88. They've been miserable more times than not in those 88 games. Like, we're talking about 10 games. That's 78 other games that I've seen them been atrocious. Now, here's the theory on why they're playing better baseball. Well, Bryce Harper was injured for a lot of those. JT Realmuto was in a big-time slump, and he wasn't always active. And then you also had Didi Gregorius missing a significant amount of time, even though Ronald Torreyes has been pretty damn solid, more than you ever could have thought he would be for your franchise during that time. Now the team is getting healthier. Mix in Andrew McCutchen and his red-hot bat that he has sparked this club with since basically June, and you know, you're thinking about that aspect, and is that why this team is starting to put it together? Because they're getting healthier. I'm not willing to commit. I don't think a team that is the second worst in defensive numbers is good enough to succeed to win a division, no matter how bad the division is. So I'm understanding the moment of how great this is. I'm understanding that this is a nice ride. Look, I felt the need to watch every game this weekend. I needed to see how this team was going to match up. I had to watch pitch by pitch against the Red Sox. So that means they are keeping my interest and the storyline is there. So I'm understanding of this is still solid and this is nice. And I want it to be this way compared to the alternative. I want to see if they can suck me in to the belief side. I do. I don't want them to stink. I need this. It's July 11th. We got a long ways to go until the Philadelphia Eagles are ready to rock for all sorts of camp and preseason. The more wins, the merrier, damn it. And I want to see good baseball. And good baseball's fun. Watching this team actually win and compete, it's fun. 10 games compared to 78 games, though. You know, there's a lot of other nasty things I saw. So I just need to see more of it. If you strive towards this being your legitimacy, then hey, I'm all here. I'm ready. I'll commit. I'm just not ready to commit this moment. So with that said, let's dive into this impressive series win by your Philadelphia Phillies, game by game. We'll start with game one. They lost 11-5. Vinny V, brutal. To the point where he's getting in fights with some fans after the game. If you did not see on Twitter, somebody took a video of him screaming at people who were calling him pathetic. Now, here's what I'll say to that. I don't really have an issue with Vinny V losing his cool there. Now, he has to pitch better, and it's clear that he stinks. 120 starts in his career. In what universe has Vince Velasquez earned the right to start that many times? And unfortunately, I know the answer. Spencer Howard stinks. Matt Moore stinks. Chase Anderson stinks. Every alternative to Vince Velasquez has fell flat on their face here in this city. Nick Pivetta being one of them. So with everybody else being a disaster, that keeps Vinny V active and it keeps giving him more chances and more chances. But 120 times to start, I mean, that's crazy. I believe 7 of those were in Houston. Other than that, they've all been in Philadelphia, and it's just a nightmare that he continues to trot out there, even though he has had some success this season and some nicer outings this year. I'm sorry, we've seen enough out of him. The experiment should be over. I don't love the fact that he's barking at people, but I also don't hate him for it. What I have the issue is, what type of loser waits by the Phillies bus and just starts screaming that you're pathetic in the game when you're drunk up at the top of Citizens Bank Park or in another arena or another ballpark, I should say, and you boo guys and say, hey, you stink, you suck, whatever. Fine, that's okay with me. If you start camping out the team's bus to scream that you are absolutely pathetic, you're taking that to a whole nother level of you're just a loser. In what world are you wasting your time to scream that at Vince Velasquez from a 10-foot distance? I don't know. To me, that's a little embarrassing. But pretty much, Vinny V started barking at him, calling him fat. And I want to say, your fat ass, go out there. I don't know if that was the exact word, so don't quote me on that. But I want to see if you can go out there and pitch out there. And whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I don't have much opinion on it. I mean, I know Vinny V is not the greatest in the world, and he lost his cool. He didn't do anything too outrageous. He didn't do anything too extreme, but you got to pitch better. That's for damn sure, and I don't think he's ever really going to. He's had enough chances. So, yeah, there's that. He went 2 1/3, allowed 8 runs, 4 walk batters, 3 home runs allowed. I've never seen somebody miss the plate so much in my life, like the target, I should say, where JT Realmuto was setting up. He was putting balls right over the middle. It was absurd. He was actually given the lead. The Phillies got the lead. It was nice. Gene Segura hits the wall, ends up getting a triple to start things off. I'm all juiced up. I'm all excited. He ends up getting knocked in. The Phillies are up. Like, the Phillies have a lead. This is tremendous. And then, what do you know? Kike Hernandez sees one up and in, crucified over the Green Monster. He also allowed a home run to J.D. Martinez, Rafael Devers, right over the middle of the plate. The amount of times I watched JT Realmuto move his target from where the pitch was supposed to be, the location was so off, he's then moving his glove to the middle of the plate. It was disgraceful, the amount of times that he missed his location. I don't know what you're thinking. You were trying too hard. He was overthrowing. He was overcomplicating things. And once he started to lose his repertoire, he was basically pretty easy to figure out. And there was no versatility in his pitch selection. And the Boston Red Sox basically just took it from a ride from there. It was 9-3 after the third inning. So they were basically getting shelled. And my thought in that moment was, you're not playing the Chicago Cubs anymore, fellas. This is no longer a baseball team that loses 11 straight games. This is the real deal. They might struggle in some areas with their pitching. Hitting-wise, though, they are the real deal. Rafael Devers, Bogarts, JD Martinez, Verdugo, they know how to get the job done. You can't miss spots the way that Vinny V did unless you want it to be a 9-3 game after the third inning. And it was a disaster from there. You can maybe make the argument that Joe Girardi left him in there too long, but even after the game, Joe mentioned this, there was a previous outing where it seemed Vince Velasquez had no idea what he was doing, and he did not have his proper form, and then it just snapped, and he basically cruised and found his control, and he was the Vinny V that we saw at times this season where he was somewhat solid and somewhat decent and somewhat passable. So he was giving Vince Velasquez the opportunity to maybe get back into that rhythm, but that was never the case. So maybe he tried to keep Vinny V in too long, but if he just had an outing that he got out of a funk and grooved, I guess he does get maybe that chance to do it. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they were winning this game regardless, no matter if Vinny V was yanked earlier or not, even though you could tell right from the jump it wasn't his night. Now, after the game, I was somewhat shocked. Vince, he does a good job at owning up. Now, sometimes you own up over and over and over again, and then you get annoyed with it because, okay, you're saying all the right things. I wasn't good enough. I got to be better. I got to be sharper. I'm unhappy with myself. I got to get him the next time. I got to tweak certain things. You say the right things, but if you do it a billion times, enough is enough. Do it. Stop telling us what you need to do and do it. And after this game, he was talking about he's going to take the positives out of this outing. Vince, there were zero positives. Like, there was not one positive that I could think of for that outing. So normally when I'm accustomed to seeing Vince hold himself accountable and say the right things and, you know, be hard on himself, he truly is hard on himself in a good way because he knows what he provides is unacceptable and he's willing to admit that. Now, once again, it only goes so far. At some time, fix it. At some time, change. At some time, stop holding yourself accountable by saying things and go actually do it. Do it. Experience it out there on the mound instead of talking about it. And we know it's never going to truly happen because, as I alluded to, we're 120 starts in to Vince, but I was baffled by what he said after the game. I mean, it was so bad that Torreyes pitched. You know, that's how bad it is. De Los Santos got in there. Kinsler got in there. Brogdon got in there. 31 pitches for Alvarado, and he had bases loaded in the seventh. Classic Alvarado. A few things I thought was a little mind-blowing. Gene Segura, maybe he forgot how many outs there were, but there was a play where he could have turned two, and he just did not throw the ball at first base in time, and he hesitated and waited such a long time to decide to do anything. Did he forget how many outs were there? I don't know. I mean, that's Gene Segura, though. You got to take the good with the bad, and the good is leadoff spot, getting you 3 hits in some nights and providing a big spark for you offensively. The negative is he's going to make some horrendous plays in the field and forget what the situations are and probably cost you once in a blue moon, and that was just a strange spot. And then there was also a moment early on where it was a play at first base where it was close. Bang, bang, super close. Phillies were running the bases. For some reason, my gut tells me it was Jankowski, but that was about 3 days ago at this point, so I forget if it was Jankowski or somebody else. Doesn't really matter who it was, but it was early on in the game, and Joe decided, you know what, I'm not going to challenge that. And it easily could have been a challengeable one where they had a good chance of possibly winning it. They did not do it. It almost was Joe Girardi waving the white flag. You're already waving the white flag? No need. Didn't feel like doing it. Didn't feel it was necessary. It's always necessary. You never know what could change a game. It could be as simple as getting someone on first base, and then you just go on a masterful ride of a big inning where you explode and hit around. You never know. So I hated that decision by Joe. It was basically admitting we don't care because it's such a big lead. It's unnecessary to challenge that. No, it's not, Joe. That's making a bad message to your team, and it's somewhat quitting to me. It's quitting to me that you decide, nah, no thank you. No need to do that. No, there's a need to do it, Joe. And I didn't like it. All right, going on to game 2. So they're down 0-1. They tie the series up 1-1 with an 11-2 explosion. Gene Segura, Alec Boehm, home run off Perez. Perez, tough day at the office, but it's nice to see Alec Boehm get a home run. Now, I've been very critical on him. You know when you're a basketball player and your jump shot's not falling? Let's say you take 5 jumpers in a game and you realize that, okay, not my night. How else am I going to score? You attack the basket, you get fouled, you make your free throws, and seeing the ball go through the basket can maybe change the next time you take a jump shot. And let's say you make your 2 free throws, and then the next jump shot you make, okay, here we go. Now we got 2 free throws, a made basket. There's some momentum going. He ended up hitting a home run, Alec Boehm that is, off of a position player against the Cubs. And, you know, it was whatever. I don't really put a lot of stock into it. But now he hits a home run a couple days later. And I wonder if just seeing the home run, feeling the home run, letting the ball hit the wood of the bat and knowing instantly, yeah, that's gone. That feeling was enough to maybe build momentum for Alec Boehm in the power game. It was his first real home run off of an actual pitcher since May. It's July since May. And maybe there was a turning point with hitting one off of a position player first. We'll see. Only time will tell. Now you have a layoff due to the All-Star game. That's not going to help anybody who is in rhythm. And he's been tearing the cover off the ball just batting average-wise, not so much power-wise, batting average-wise, for a bit of time now since the start of June as well, just like Andrew McCutchen with the OPS game for Kutch. Nice to see Boehm do that. Then Knapp, though. We have some bad decision-making by Andrew Knapp behind the plate, throwing the ball around, scoring run. Now it's 3-2. What are we doing? What are we doing? It's always something with this team. It really is. It's always shooting themselves in the foot, making bad decisions, putting themselves in such horrendous spots. I just don't understand. You know, it's lack of fundamentals. It's lack of focus. It's lack of awareness. And I tie that back to where I was to start the show. 44-44, these are great 10 games that they are right now, but they're 500, and they lack fundamentals. I don't know over 162 how lacking fundamentals is going to relate to any sort of success, even with the division that is this poor. I feel there's going to be another team that takes the cake even with this poor division in win total. It doesn't do the game of baseball any justice, and it doesn't help out the Atlanta Braves that such a serious injury occurred to Ronald Acuna Jr., and I just feel terrible. You know, I actually watch a lot of Braves baseball on my MLB TV app because I just, you know, I like to stick around the division. I like to watch them. Now, I like to watch them more when they're actually a good brand of baseball with Freddie Freeman, Acuna, Ozzie Albies, when they're rocking and rolling and they're actually playing a good version of the game. But I like to keep in touch with what's happening around the division. That's brutal. You know, it's just so upsetting to see him go down. He can crush the baseball. He's must-watch energy. He hits home runs. He bat flips. He's always celebrating and pounding his chest, and he's a beautiful part to the game, and it's very unfortunate. But if you look at how that impacts the NL East, you know, a team that was already struggling, it's not like they were going on a ride and they were scary. They were dysfunctional as it is, but now, you know, you lose such an important piece to your lineup. It's only going to be harder and more difficult for the Braves to stay involved with losing such a key contributor and such a solid piece to their team. The 8th inning, though, in this 11-2 win in Game 2 was just unbelievable. Josh Taylor, who has not allowed a lot of damage to be done. Listen to this inning. I just want to read out this inning in particular because it's outrageous. Bryce Harper, single. Andrew McCutchen walks. Hoskins, this was a massive double to give the Phillies some insurance. It's now 5-2. Didi Gregorius pinch hits for Alec Boehm, so now it's lefty-lefty. And you knew something was wrong, right? I mean, you knew when you make that decision in the 8th inning that something was going on with Alec Boehm. You thought maybe there was an injury, but we find out that there was some COVID protocol stuff, which is just wild and bonkers to think in the 8th inning in the middle of a game is when that decision comes down. And when that happens, out of all the times that you think maybe someone would be aware of some COVID protocols, it's the middle of the game in the 8th inning. But I digress. Gregorius ends up getting hit by a pitch, and now Brandon Workman's in the game. Luke Williams walks Suarez with a single. It's now 6-2. Andrew Knapp gets walked by Workman. It's now 7-2. Then they go to Bryce out of the bullpen. Segura singles. It's now 9-2. And then Bryce Harper, who started this bad boy off with the single, doubles, and it's now 11-2. Talk about a huge momentum switch in that 8th inning, and they just crucified the baseball, scoring all sorts of runs and playing a little bit of small ball. You know, you had Reese's double, which was big. A lot of walks were in play. Segura double, Segura single, Bryce double. Bryce had a single earlier. Just a lot of versatility in that inning, but really pounding them and getting the runs that they needed. You knew at that point there's no way that this bullpen is going to blow anything. You want a Matt Moore start. That's significant. You're winning Matt Moore starts, please, more of that. No pun intended. He went 4 1/3, allowed 2 earned runs. Falter coming out of the bullpen, 2 innings and 3 strikeouts. He was ridiculous. You know, there's something in there with Falter, even though he's now on the COVID protocol list and whatnot. He's been great. You know, he's been a great story. I'm just not upset. I'm conflicted. I guess conflicted is the word. Connor Brogdon early in the season we thought had that dog in him and we thought had that killer in him. And he did. And then eventually he came back to reality a bit. Maybe pitchers have or hitters realized now that they've seen him pitch enough, they made the adjustments, and now Connor Brogdon has to make the adjustments to their adjustments. So Brogdon dipped off a little bit, and I still think that he's going to be a nice relief pitcher, but he wasn't as dominant as he once was earlier in the season. Is that going to happen to Falter at some point after a lot of guys start to see what his tendencies are and how he likes to throw? And then same with Ranger Suarez, even though that's more of the third game. You know, with Ranger Suarez, I just wonder how many outings is he going to go until maybe he dips back to reality a little bit. I'm taking the ride. You know, I'm taking the hot streak for as long as they possibly can, but I am curious when that's going to maybe dip back because that is how relief pitchers work. Chapman goes through phases where he gets annihilated. Chapman goes through phases where he is unbelievable, and I'm having a hard time trying to say Ranger Suarez is now an elite closer because of a few outings. So, you know, with Falter, he's been great. But when is reality going to settle in? Or is this who he is? I mean, it's possible that this is who he is. But, you know, the track record of these guys who start out with some really nice momentum is at some point reality hits a bit and they come back more to the medium, if you will. And I'm cautiously optimistic, maybe, is another way to describe it. J.D. Hammer also got the nod. He went 1 inning, allowed 1 walk and 2 Ks. You know, I saw J.D. Hammer in the past, and I liked some solid things out of him. And, you know, there's times where he had some hiccups along the way, so we'll see what this means for J.D. Hammer out of the pen that has struggled forever. Before we get to Game 3, and there's also some anytime hotline calls, DraftKings Sportsbook's not only my favorite sportsbook app, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. You can download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. Bet on any basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you will claim $100 in free credits. That's promo code Brodes for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Wager paid out in-site. Credits. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, yeah, Game 3, we were robbed of a special moment of Nick Pivetta and Aaron Nola, which would have been great. But we did see vintage Pivetta, right? He was bitching and complaining, bad body language, getting annihilated by guys that he probably shouldn't get annihilated by, a.k.a. Ronald Torreyes, who hit a big-time bomb over the Green Monster. And that thing was just murdered and incredible to watch. That was huge. That actually gave the Phillies a 5-1 lead at that time. But before that, there was an error throw out out by the outfield, which scored 2 runs for the Phillies after they were down 1-0. Where was Nick Pivetta when it comes to having support and backing up the throw? He was not there, and you just saw his facial expression, his body language. He was bitching and complaining, and he was your typical Nick Pivetta that we have seen since the start of time in Philly. His stat line read 4 innings, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, and 2 walks. Now, it was clear he wanted to really pound the Phillies and show them that he's a better pitcher than he was when he had on the Phillies pinstripes, but I saw nothing of that. He looked exactly the same. Now, I can look through the stat lines and look through the game logs and look at where the Boston Red Sox are and acknowledge that, yeah, I mean, obviously he's had stronger moments here and he's had some really nice outings here, but, you know, to watch him blow up the way that he blew up against his former team, I'll be honest with you, it was kind of nice. He was calling off pitches with the catcher. No, I want to do my pitches. Oh, what's that? There's a walk. Oh, what's that? Now there's damage. Oh, what's that? Now the Phillies are scoring. He was all over the place. Balls, high balls, losing command. As I alluded to, he was calling off the catcher. Typical Nick Pivetta stuff, you know. It's just funny because it's Nick Pivetta. It's Nick Pivetta, and the fact that he lost this game makes it even funnier to me. So the fact that the Phillies go down 1-0 after a Bogaerts home run and still climbed back, you know, it's just the adversity, the mental adversity, knowing you're on the road against a very strong opponent and knowing what happened, too, before the game. It's not easy. You got to settle in. And I think about pitchers that have to prepare so much and how they're a creature of habit and knowing that you're just getting thrown into this, you know? Kintzler, hey, you're opening. What? I'm opening. What the hell? What? What are you doing? I'm opening. Hey, we're going with the bullpen game. What? A bullpen game? A bullpen game? This bullpen stinks. This bullpen's awful. You're going for a series win, which would be crucial heading into the All-Star break. A bullpen game. You're used to having a starter who's mentally prepared, who's engaged, who's ready the night before, who's just locked in and ready to rock, knowing their outing is coming. And now you're 2 hours before the game, nobody even knows who's starting. To win that baseball game is absolutely incredible. How about Christopher Sanchez? 3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run. To come in out of relief and give you that type of strong effort, I mean, that's sensational. It really is. Now, after that, Hector Neris gives you an inning, but Jose Alvarado starts to get into this ugliness of 2 1/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs. Archie Bradley, 1 inning after that. Ranger Suarez, 8th inning, bases loaded. Wow. And I thought what was just as impressive with that after 2 1/3 of Ranger Suarez was the 9th inning specifically. Gets J.D. Martinez looking, gets Bogaerts looking, and then gets Devers to ground out. It's a 5-4 baseball game, and it's a very big moment for that kid. And after how many pitches he threw in the previous innings, he literally went 1 1/3 prior to that, threw a decent amount of high leverage spots, okay? Walked some batters, which isn't what you want to see, but he got himself in trouble, also got himself out of trouble. I like this Ranger Suarez ride that we're on. I'm just not fully committed to it to say that this is it. You know, oh, he's such a masterful piece. I don't know if he is. I don't know. But I know right now he's putting together outings that are very important, and someone needs to step up. Nobody has really stepped up to this point. You've tried Hector Neris. You've tried Jose Alvarado. You've tried Connor Brogdon in certain moments. You've tried Sam Coonrod in certain moments. You've tried Archie Bradley in some moments. Someone has to step up, and for Ranger Suarez to deliver, yeah, you know what? Someone is stepping up right now, and he's an arm that you just never would have thought of as the guy to do it if you're talking about earlier this season, and here we are. And it was amazing, that 8th inning, that 9th inning. That was unreal. Big time moment where you get a good fist pump. If you're watching that game and you don't leave out a big fucking fist pump after that moment, well then shame on you. You were just not experiencing it the right way. But yeah, I mean, look, it's huge. It's really big for them to win that final series. I just need to see this continue for longer after the All-Star break, and then I'm willing to say we have something here. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Let's go to the Anytime Hotline and take a few calls before we end this bad boy. I want to hear the reactions to this series win, and these calls were after Game 3.
season-saving road trip for the Phillies. If you had said before it started that you would take 3 out of 4 from the Cubs at Wrigley and 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox at Fenway, I'd have said yeah all day, and they went out and did it. And now it's got to change Dave Dombrowski's approach a little bit as far as the trading deadline goes. I think we can take the seller aspect away and go with the buyer. Now, that being said, I don't think this is a legitimate contender, but it will be interesting if he can go out and add another legitimate starter, anything to get Vince Velasquez out of the rotation and hopefully off this team.
I don't know if they would go starter. They would probably go bullpen, no? Wouldn't you think that they might need some help and add a couple bullpen pieces over a starter? Now, I'm not telling you I wouldn't want a starter. I'm not telling you I think it would be a horrendous idea to get a starter. But if you're thinking about what they need, I got you. Look, it's Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Zach Eflin. And Nola's been very shaky this season. He's in the 4 ERA range, and that's not good enough for him. So he needs to be better. But if you think about 3 guys that start in your playoff rotation, those are your 3 guys that would start in your playoff rotation. You need a right-handed bat off of your bench big time, and you need some help with the bullpen. You can only do so much. So if you are going to buy, that's probably the direction that they're going to lean into. Now, I don't want to get too much into buy-sell thing because over this All-Star break, I want to talk about the Phillies more, and I have some dialogue that I want to get into when it comes to Dave Dombrowski and the position that he's in and the tough, weird spot, and it's not going to be an easy decision that's made, but I don't want to get too into it right now just because I want to react to the Boston series, but that is something that's interesting on top of the draft picks that are going to be in place moving forward, and they picked their first-round pick earlier today, so, there's just a lot more to talk about with Dombrowski and with the draft picks and with the franchise during this week of the All-Star break, so we'll get into that more. But, yeah, a very impressive road trip to get yourself into the All-Star break. And I probably would not have imagined this playing out the way that it has before we see it now with hindsight.
What a great fucking win for this team today. Great series win from Boston. The bullpen really stepped up today. With Nola being out, everyone pretty much stepped up. It got a little shaky, with Alvarado in, but overall, great job. Ranger Suarez, I think we can finally say he's now the closer. Just a great series win, and a great way to end the first half of the season.
It's a great way to end the first half of the season, but they're also a 500 team, which is an average baseball team. So it's a weird spot for me. I have a lot of conflicting thoughts on it. So anyway, you mentioned the Jose Alvarado experience and how it was a little bit wonky and a little bit shaky there, and it is every time basically. You never know really what you're going to get. If you remember just a couple games ago, they elected to go with Connor Brogdon, Joe Girardi that is, Connor Brogdon to go righty-lefty instead of lefty-lefty with Jose Alvarado, and Connor Brogdon ended up getting rocked a bit and runs were scored, and the conversation was, I can't believe they did not go Alvarado. And while I understand that, I do question why you go righty-lefty more than any fucking team out there, or lefty-righty or whatever. You just do odd, strange things. Jose Alvarado, we can't just pretend, well, Joe clearly screwed up because of Jose Alvarado and not putting him in. Today, 2 1/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, and I mentioned his name earlier. Where was that game? That game was Game 1 of this series. Yes, Jose Alvarado had bases loaded in the 7th and threw 31 pitches. So let's not act just because they didn't go with Alvarado in that moment that did not mean that Alvarado was the clear and obvious pick, because he has had some recent struggles and he's put a lot of pressure on this team when he's been out there on the mound. So it's a very odd spot to be in because you can't trust a lot of these players, and every time they come in, you cringe, and you cringe hard.
This game was the most help that Nick Pivetta gave the Phillies in his entire career. I'm so sick and tired of Red Sox fans and Phillies haters saying, oh man, Phillies really made a huge mistake trading away Nick Pivetta, conveniently forgetting that he was literally one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball when he was with the Phillies. And 4.30 ERA would be fine if it's, a third or fourth starter. It'd be passable, but let's not act like this guy is Randy Johnson mixed with Pedro Martinez all of a sudden. great win by the Phils, especially considering that Aaron Nola had the COVID protocol, and let's get back to 500.
Yeah, so I agree with the whole Nick Pivetta thing. I've been saying that for a while, even earlier in the season when everyone was stressing how well Nick Pivetta was doing because they've won a lot of games. He was going 5 innings. Early in the season, 5 innings, and sure, he had a couple sprinkled in there, but he's got a 4.09 ERA. His career is a 5.16, by the way, so just to put it in perspective on how he was pitching with the Philadelphia Phillies. And I guess if you go through some of the years that he had with the Phils, ERA 6.02, 6.89. That was a total in 2020 between the Phillies where he had a 15.88 ERA. That was only in 5 2/3 innings. Okay, I was going to say he barely played. He had 15 2/3 of an inning. I don't know why I just read it like a jerk off, but I did. 15 2/3 innings in 2020. So, that, take it for what it is. Too small of a sample size. 5.38, 4.77, 6.02. Those were his ERAs in the 3 years with the Phillies prior to the trade. And right now he's at a 4.09. So, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? It's not anything overwhelming. It's a back end of your rotation type of guy, which, as we see, is a role. It's a role. Matt Moore stinks. Vince Velasquez stinks. Chase Anderson stinks. And we're trying to find the help that can maybe solidify a back end of the rotation role. There's a role for that. But you're right. We're not talking about trading a piece, Sixto Sanchez caliber, or top end of the rotation type. We're talking about a back-end piece, which is easier to find than the Phillies make it seem to be. That's for damn sure. So it's a fixable piece. But, yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. Whenever someone leaves here and has any sort of success to any degree, it gets blown out of proportion big time. So with that said, I want to thank everybody so much for listening. We have the All-Star break. That does not mean Phillies conversation's going anywhere. We do have some things to attack as a fan base here as we wait to see them take on the Marlins when they return from break. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.